23 Trees, written by Daniel Burnett, read by Hurricane. Behind the little girl's house was what she called a mini forest, which she had named 22 Trees. Realistically, it was only around 50 meters by 30 meters or so, and it did in fact have exactly 22 trees within it. But to her, it was a mini forest. Her imagination would fill it with fairies one day, and woodland gods the next. It was a natural playground where she could put up her little green tent, have a tea party with Obsidian, her make-believe friend, and then run around counting the trees. It was the best place in the world, and it was all hers. There were never any bugs in the mini forest, not even in the soil. This was perfect for the little girl. She didn't like bugs. They made her itchy. She could make as many holes in the ground without ever having to worry about what was underneath. She had considered asking Obsidian to build a treehouse with her, but he had mentioned to her that her little green tent was all the shelter they would ever need, and so came to the conclusion that asking would be pointless. Obsidian was a creature that was once human, according to the little girl. There were no features attributed to him, other than a vague mass of smoke that followed the little girl around. Only she could see and hear him, for now at least, until he grew stronger. He would instruct the little girl in how to complete her job, telling her always, "We must extend the forest." She would always agree with him, but rarely made any real effort to plant more trees, treating it as more of a special ritualistic occasion. Obsidian never got upset with the little girl over this, though, never raised his voice or took a despondent tone. He just waited patiently and helped her when she decided it was time to plant more trees. Her job was planting things in her mini forest. The forest was originally a blank slate of land that came with the house when her father bought it. He gifted this land to her after an argument they'd had about finding her a new mummy. This sadly was a regular occurrence, and would often lead to the little girl running away from home. He suggested that he could have old trees planted there, already fully grown, so that she could have a beautiful place to play. That way, he would always know where to find her if she ran away from home again. When her father passed away, the house was left to be overtaken by moss, and high grass surrounded it like a crown upon a queen's head. But the mini forest was left in her father's will as being the little girl's land legally. It would always be her forest, and he would always protect her land. She had everything she needed in her forest. She had a fire pit, which Obsidian looked after, as she was too young to play with fire. She had a compost heap. She had lots of ground to work with, and no bugs to put her off. One day, Obsidian encouraged her to have a friend over, so that he could see who she hung around with when she was away from the mini forest. She agreed after he said that she could invite the outsider to plant with them. So the friend arrived 2 days later, after everything was prepared. Obsidian did not look impressed, as the girl strolled into the 22 trees with a fully grown woman instead of a friend. The truth was, Obsidian was her only friend. Acknowledging his annoyed expression, the little girl threw a wink at him. "We must extend the forest," he said to the girl. The woman looked confused and asked where the little girl's daddy was. She was an estate agent that had come to investigate who was living at the house, since they were due to hear from the owner in regards to looking to sell the property. The girl just looked at her and smiled politely, before letting her know that her father was around here, somewhere. After waving the woman through the trees for a while in a fake attempt to find her father, the girl arrived at her tent. Whilst looking about as cute as possible, the little girl suggested that the woman join her in the tent for a tea party whilst they waited for her father to show up. The woman reluctantly agreed and ducked down to open the zip on the front of the tent, before getting onto her hands and knees in order to crawl in. The girl stopped her from entering, held the tent flap open, and instructed the woman to wait for Obsidian to enter first. The woman, not knowing who Obsidian was, politely agreed, whilst chuckling to herself at the insistent manner of the child. Still chuckling, the estate agent, who had guessed that Obsidian was an imaginary friend, waited a few seconds, and then moved to enter the tent. She poked her head into the tent for but a moment. Her head was crunched, cracked, and chiseled off by Obsidian's ritualistically formed teeth, before being spat past her now violently twitching body that was dangling out of the tent door. The girl cheered and jumped up and down before noticing the blood on her dress. She looked momentarily annoyed before remembering why she had chosen to do this. Now we can extend the forest. The head of the culled estate agent was retrieved by the little girl and taken to the edge of the mini-forest. She put the head down and picked up her trowel and started to dig into the fresh, bug-free ground. Without breaking a sweat, the little girl turned to Obsidian and asked if this hole was sufficient. He nodded at the girl in approval and turned toward the body. The girl then placed the head into the ground, sprinkled tree seeds into the newly emptied eye sockets, which had been sucked clean by Obsidian, and then replaced the soil into the hole. I now rename this forest 23 Trees. She then joined Obsidian at the fire pit where he had thrown the woman's body in, name badge and all, and held his hand. Obsidian lit the fire and watched as the cremation began to build in excitement. The little girl stood back as the smoke started to bellow from the fire pit and add to Obsidian's mass, the carbon of other beings slowly making him human again. As Obsidian grew, he turned to embrace the little girl. She hugged the smoky figure with such love and explained to him how happy she was to be helping him. They stood and watched the woman burn together. I love you, Daddy, said the girl.
Hey everyone, if you liked what you saw, then hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and why not go and follow Hurricane too?